Mike.
So last
Mike
week we
Figueroa,
talked about
not
how
John.
artist Oliver Anthony, who went viral for his song Richmond North of Richmond, found himself in a little bit of hot water with some of his right-wing fans because he dared to say that diversity is good during a Fox News interview. I'm not joking about this. But it gets a little bit worse for conservatives who thought that he was one of them because they played a clip of his song at the GOP debate and he responded to that. And what he said, I'm assuming, did not make a lot of Republicans happy.
No.
I'm disappointed to see, like, it's aggravating seeing people on conservative news try to identify with me like I'm one of them. It's aggravating seeing certain musicians and politicians act like we're buddies and act like we're fighting the same struggle here, like that we're trying to present the same message. You know, I've had a lot of people reach out to me, and I tried to be polite to everybody, and I've talked to hundreds of people the last 2 weeks. But it seems like certain people want to just ride the attention of this song to maybe make them their own selves relevant, and that's aggravating as hell. The other thing that I find aggravating is, well, you know, like, it was funny seeing my song in the, it was funny seeing it at the presidential debate, because it's like, I wrote that song about those people, you know? So for them to have to sit there and listen to that, that cracks me up. But it was funny kind of seeing the response to it. Like, that song has nothing to do with Joe Biden, you know? It's a lot bigger than Joe Biden. That song is written about the people on that stage, and a lot more too, not just them, but definitely them.
So apparently his song wasn't necessarily the right-wing anthem that conservatives hoped it would be. But with that being said, I don't think that they're wrong to assume that he was one of them, because if you listen to the lyrics of his song, I mean, it is very heavily right-wing coded, and on top of that, he literally complains about people on welfare being fat and lazy. I mean, this is supposedly a working class anthem, but people on welfare are part of the working class. They're on welfare because they're not making enough to pay the bills, even though they have jobs. So to me, it's bizarre that he thinks Republicans were, I guess, wrong to assume that he was on their team. But Democrats started to kind of celebrate this after he repudiated the GOP. But he had a message for them too, because on Twitter he wrote, "I don't support either side politically. Not the left, not the right. I'm about supporting people and restoring local communities. Now go breathe some fresh air and relax, please. I'm not worth obsessing over. I promise. Go spend time with your loved ones." Now, that's something that I actually agree with Oliver Anthony about, even though I could...
This guy literally doesn't have any politics. He just doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. He's literally most likely astroturfed. And they were hoping that he would go on the Republican side, but he's just like, I don't want to be on either side. He's being independent about it. So now let's go to the next video of Oliver Anthony, because I don't want to watch the whole Bud Light. I don't want to watch the whole Mike Figueroa video. Watch it yourself. Here we go. This guy's a loser. This is Kid Rock. This is before he shot the Bud Light cans in his really wealthy estate near a river. And then he was caught drinking Bud Lights again. So
Bud Light and Anheuser-Busch. Have a terrific day.
Yep.
Your eyes are not deceiving you, my friends. You indeed just saw a photograph of Kid Rock drinking a Bud Light during a Colt Ford show in Nashville, Tennessee. So I guess this means that the boycott is over, right? Now, if you're still skeptical, well, there's a second photograph taken from a different angle, which clearly confirms that he is indeed holding a can of Bud Light. Now, there's also video evidence of this portrayal published by TMZ, which I cannot share due to copyright issues. But, yeah, it seems like this is the end of the Bud Light boycott, or perhaps the beginning of the end, at least when it comes to Kid Rock's participation. Now, for all three of you not familiar with this story, Kid Rock, a couple of months ago, shot up cans of Bud Light in protest of their brand deal with a trans influencer. Now, that was arguably what sparked this boycott in the first place, which ultimately resulted in a substantial drop in sales for Bud Light and them losing their status to Modelo as the top-selling beer in the country. So for once, conservatives were able to flex some muscle when it comes to the culture, and now I guess it's all been thrown away by the very person who catalyzed this movement. Hilarious. Now, the right is taking this about as well as you'd expect. One Twitter user cried conspiracy, writing, actually, he was drinking Coors Light can. This is a lie. Hitler. Someone altered it. Look at the pic carefully. Also, the blue outline doesn't match the blue can. Someone took the Bud Light logo and inserted it over the blue on the can. Now, unfortunately for this person, that's not true, and even if it were true, Coors Light is also woke. But another user attacked a journalist for sharing the photo. This is so fucking stupid. Writing, that last thing you wrote was a doozy. Posting a picture of Kid Rock holding a Bud Light without any background verification that it wasn't photoshopped or that it was taken years ago. Garbage clickbait journalism designed to brainwash liberals even more. Goddamn. Now, aside from the conspiracies, others expressed genuine disappointment. For example, the Daily Caller tweeted, "Come on, Kid Rock, what are we doing?" With others replying, calling him a fraud and a hypocrite, or questioning the authenticity of the photo, like the aforementioned conspiracy theorists that we saw. Now, in response to Tim Pool jokingly calling it treason, although we know he's deeply hurt in reality.
So, like, basically, these people were trying to act like Bud Light is going out of business and no one's gonna drink it no more. And if you're conservative, you're not gonna drink Bud Light, and Bud Light's dead. And Bud Light's woke because they had on Dylan Mulvaney, which is a trans woman, and they had one ad where they sent one can over to her, and that one can had her face on it, and it's promoting child pedophilia somehow because they want to turn your kids trans so that less people have kids and the human species goes out. Like, these people are fucking insane, and nothing that they ever predict comes true. So
reality, an account called "We Are All God's Children" wrote, "I am strongly against cancel culture, but I am calling for a boycott of all Kid Rock products until further notice." They're fucking serious about this. Now, my favorite response came from conservative influencer Nick Adams, who released a satirical official statement writing, "I have been made aware of social media posts circulating that show Kid Rock allegedly enjoying a can of Bud Light. I take this allegation seriously and am in close contact with sources on the ground. I am currently conducting a thorough investigation evaluating confidential photo and video evidence and interviewing eyewitnesses. Kid Rock is an American icon and a patriot. He will be considered innocent until proven guilty. I have complete and total faith that we will uncover the truth." I mean, goddamn, conservatives sure are deranged, but you've got to give them credit for at least being entertaining. Now, there's debate online about Nick Adams and whether or not he's playing a character. And I think it's a little bit of both, right? I think that he's likely a conservative who plays up conservatism for more engagement on Twitter. And his post was very clearly meant to be a joke. But I mean, I have to be honest, people like him and Tim Pool downplaying this by joking about this, it does feel a little bit like cope to me. Because when they finally were able to assert some cultural dominance, I mean, it's gotta feel like a gut punch to see the person who led the charge being exposed as a complete fraud and not living up to the principles that he said all of them should espouse, right? And I get that it's beer and it's not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things, but remember, we're not the ones who made this a big deal. They're the ones who made this a big deal. But unfortunately for them, Kid Rock was never serious about boycotting Bud Light. Here's what CNN found when they visited his bar in Nashville, Tennessee.
Despite the online bravado and talk of a boycott, Bud Light was available when CNN stopped in recently. It is not clear if the ban had been lifted or if there ever had been one to begin with.
That was the mainstream media equivalent of them this shoeing someone, because that was CNN this shoeing Kid Rock. I mean, it's hypocritical, right? They say one thing and do another. They're never serious about these things, and I wish that conservatives, like the rank and file conservatives, would understand that these grifters do not give a shit about anything they purport to care about. It's all just an act to farm engagement.
They don't
Now,
care.
the reactions that I showed you were mostly from smaller right-wing accounts.
They don't care about nothing,
I think that
guys. They
most
don't care.
larger accounts have been silent on this issue because they're embarrassed, unless they were joking, right?
It's
like
one of
Nick
your
Adams
money.
or Tim Pool. But their silence to me is a sign that they do feel embarrassed because this was something that mattered to them, right? Even though we made fun of it, they thought this was really important. They wanted to be able to assert their own cultural dominance, and to an extent, it was successful, at least when it comes to Bud Light. Now, to demonstrate why they actually think this is serious, we're going to look at a clip from Tim Pool's show where he talks about this betrayal. And, he jokingly called it treason on Twitter, but in actuality, he's mad about this. And he had Laura Loomer, of all people, on his show, and she actually made the most serious point about this issue, that all of these companies that conservatives support have already gone woke in some way, shape, or form. But we're not going to look at that or give her credit. I want to look specifically at Tim Pool's explanation as to why these types of boycotts are crucial to conservatives, despite his initially half-serious response at first. Let's watch.
From TMZ. Kid Rock enjoys a Bud Light?
Oh, pussy.
So apparently, Kid Rock was spotted at an event at the Sky Deck in Nashville Thursday night at Colt Ford's show, drinking Bud Light. So a lot of people are saying it's probably the only beer they had or whatever, but I don't know. I guess I guess the point of the story is this is a guy who opened fire on Bud Light, said "F you," who now I guess doesn't care all that much and is back on drinking it. Politics is downstream from culture. And the left has known this for years. That's why they heavily invest in Hollywood and music. It's why they ban you got this big song right now, "Rich Men North of Richmond." The reason it's big is because regular people have the ability to share a song that resonates with them. What do we get from
We just
corporate
talked about this,
mainstream
guys. The Rich
media?
Men,
But
the Rich Men
I don't
North
know.
of
I guess
Richmond
I
bullshit.
guess
They're
the
bringing
point of
that
the
up.
story is this is a guy who opened
stupid
fire on
fucking
Bud Light,
assholes.
said "F you," who now I guess doesn't care all that much and is back on drinking it. Politics is downstream from culture. And the left has known this for years. That's why they heavily invest in Hollywood and music. It's why they ban you got this big song right now, "Rich Men North of Richmond." The reason it's big is because regular people have the ability to share a song that resonates with them.
That's bullshit.
What do we get from corporate mainstream
That song
media?
is
This weird woke garbage nonsense. You get
astroturfed.
Kim Petras and you get Sam Smith doing Satanism on stage. Then you get a guy in Appalachia singing about how they're screwing over the little guy. And
This is
regular
why
people can push that
conservatism
and make it
has
go
no
viral.
good art.
Culture is what drives politics.
This is why artists
If you
are
make
usually
something
leftist
culturally
or
unacceptable,
liberal.
It just
You know what I
can't
mean?
happen.
Like,
Now,
or
I don't
like
necessarily disagree. I think that
independent,
culture
like they're
does
not on the
influence
right.
politics to an
'Cause,
extent, but politics
art
also
on the right
influences
is fucking
culture.
trash.
A shift in support
They have
for gay
no
rights,
creativity,
yes,
no
led to more
imagination.
civil
They wanna
rights for
arrest
gay
anybody
people,
who's different.
culturally.
So just
But
imagine
on the other
that.
side of the same coin, I think that gay people actually winning the right to marry shifted the culture because it normalized their relationships with the public, and now support for marriage equality is higher than ever. So I think that it does go both ways. But having said that, though, I am so thankful that Tim Pool brought up Oliver Anthony because he's at risk of being canceled as well. Now, for those unaware, Oliver Anthony is the country singer who went viral for his song "Rich Men North of Richmond," and the song was hailed as a working class anthem because he talks about the struggle of the working man and how hard it is to pay the bills, which obviously is going to resonate with people, but it's also very right-wing coded and has multiple dog whistles and complaints about people who are
Dog
living off of
whistles.
welfare. So, how can you say that this is a working class anthem when people who are working full-time jobs still don't make enough to survive and therefore have to get welfare? So, I mean, that's a different discussion for a different day. But the reason why we're talking about him is because in his first interview since he went viral, well, he said something that is a little bit of a red flag to conservatives, and you're probably not going to notice why what he said is so problematic to them at first, but let's just watch and then I'll explain it when we come back.
What do you hope comes of the song in your music? I know you turned $8 million
He says
down.
that we're
You
all
did a great
that
statement. You
America
said
is
you
a
don't want
melting
jets,
pot.
You don't want tour buses.
And
What do you
that's
want?
what makes America powerful. That we're all like mixed. And Republicans are fucking racist. They don't want to mix.
A lot of things that I see corporate media and education doing, which is making everyone identify each other's differences and not their similarities. I want people to appreciate each other and appreciate each other's struggles, and hopefully just find the energy that was in this song and manifest it in in people's own personal lives, and just trying to find similarities with each other instead of division. That's really all I want. I mean, I don't see our country lasting more than another generation the way we're headed. We've got to go back to the roots of what made this country great in the first place, which was our sense of community and we are the melting pot of the world, and that's what makes us strong, is our diversity, and we need to learn to harness that and appreciate it and not use it as a political tool to keep everyone
Republicans don't like that message.
Now, to
They're
me, when I hear
fucking
that, I just think
racist.
this man sounds like a hypocrite, because here he is preaching unity after his song went viral, and in that song, he implied that people living off of welfare are fat and lazy. But I mean, if your complaint is about how rich people are exploiting the working class, then why would you punch down at fellow working class members and imply that they're fat and lazy, right? You're waging class warfare on behalf of the wealthy that you're complaining about, right? So it doesn't really make sense. It's kind of incoherent ideologically speaking. But to right-wingers, what he said, it hit a lot differently. So I think that he tried to say what they wanted him to say, but he ended up fucking up the talking points that they typically use and ended up just sounding like a lib. So what he probably wanted to say, and this is all speculation, is that people who are fixating on systemic racism and identity politics, that's what's dividing people. It's the sort of argument against CRT that we hear from conservatives, where they'll complain that, CRT is divisive because you're fixating on the differences between white people and black people instead of our similarities, right? What about Martin Luther King's vow to have everyone treated the same? So that is a bad argument, because even though we're all human beings and we're the same, our lived experiences are very different. But that's besides the point, right? He didn't say that. He didn't say that CRT and identity politics is dividing people. He instead said that diversity is good. We're a melting pot, and diversity is our strength. Now, that is apparently controversial to the right, and this Twitter account explains why. Promoted algorithm-boosted based Redbeard hillbilly song guy was faking his accent and says diversity is our strength. So that right there is the problem. And it's apparently a problem because diversity is a threat to white people, according to white supremacist conservatives who have gained a lot of prominence since the rise of Donald Trump. And they always kind of resorted to dog whistles when they complained about diversity, right? But they've been much more explicit over the years and have since kind of moved away from dog whistles and are now just resorting to explicit racism, where they just straight up say, yeah, diversity is bad. Diversity is white genocide, which is inherently white supremacist. Now, the response to this person who complained about this guy was relatively mixed, but there were a lot of people who didn't like what he had to say there and wanted to cancel him because he simply said diversity is good. Like, again, I have to emphasize here, they're mad that he's not being explicitly racist, right? So here's some comments. Never buy into the hype right away. Always wait a little to see if it's legit. The CIA's Milli Vanilli. This one's actually funny, unironically. Now, others shared GIFs to express their disappointment. This person laughed at him using the word melting pot. This person says that they're out, and you get the point. All it took for some conservatives to cancel him was him simply vocalizing support
they're literally fucking
for diversity.
racist, guys. They're like, they will
very, very interesting world that we live in. And when I say interesting, I mean racist.
If you support,
now, if Oliver Anthony
if
learns
let them
about
know that
this
you're
and
like
finds out that some conservatives were shocked to learn that he supports diversity,
every human.
Well, maybe he should re-examine
So
the
much for
lyrics
all
to his
lives
song
matter,
and try
huh?
to see why it might not appeal to everyone in the working class if you just go a little bit beneath the surface, right? Understand why they thought that he was on their team. But I mean, that's 2 cancellations in the same week, proving yet again that conservatives have always been the snowflakes, and they're the ones who are always hyper outraged about things that really normal people shouldn't get outraged about. And if you don't conform to their standards of what is and isn't anti-woke, you'll be excommunicated like that. But we'll have to see if Kid Rock and Oliver Anthony can get back in their good graces. But I mean, not a great week overall for country music, because we have 2 major stars in country getting canceled because one of them decided to drink Bud Light and another said that diversity is good.
Really, literally.
Woke mob. Woke ideology. Woke ideology. Woke ideology. Woke ideology. Woke ideology. Woke test. Woke ideology. Woke Olympics. Woke ideology. Woke.
That is so good, man. Guy running around.